Welcome to Captains of Industry, powered by Vision 2036. Here we have conversations with captains of industry to find out how they are driving the Vision 2036 mandate within their various organizations in an effort towards achieving prosperity for all. Nakibidua Mimi Mujimabwane, and I'm your host for today. I'll be in conversation with the chairperson of the Vision 2036 Council, Neo Moroka, who today will help us unpack really what is the Vision 2036 and how each and every one of us can contribute towards achieving prosperity for all. Dumela Ramoroka.
Dumela.
Ramoroka, I'd like for us to just get into, before we delve deeper into the Vision 2036, for us, how did the Vision 2036 come about? What was the process in the development of the actual vision, so we can truly say,
thank you very much. In November 2015, the then President, Lieutenant General Dr. Seretse appointed a tax team, which I had the honor of leading and he asked us to go countrywide on consultation trips to talk to Botswana and because it was at the end of Vision 2016, to talk to Botswana about their future. So what we did was we set out on a journey to talk to Botswana. We basically had three questions. The first question was, what would Botswana like Botswana to look like in 2036? The second question was, what kind of person would a Botswana like to be in 2036? And the third question was, given the aspirations that Botswana have, what should be done and who should do it? Now, I won't even give the answers first, but to get to the analysis and results. But what we did, the process actually entailed consultations, as I say. We met people from government, the general public, business people, non-governmental organizations, individuals, and we also consulted our development partners. These are international organizations, some of which are represented in Botswana. So that is what we did. We used various mediums of communications. One was a quarter meeting. We had focused groups. We had organizations that we interviewed, individuals, and so forth. Yeah. So that is basically what we did. Now, at the end of it all, Botswana basically wanted the following. They said, we want Botswana to be a high-income country.
Right.
And we want Botswana to be prosperous. Each Botswana living in the full enjoyment of his or her potential. And at the end of it all, we want Botswana society to be a moral, tolerant, and inclusive society where opportunities are provided for all. So that is what Botswana said in response to the first two questions. In response to the last question, Botswana basically said, what is needed in order to achieve this vision? What needs to be done is to have strong leadership. And this strong leadership, not only by government, but in the private sector and civil society, and even at community and even family level. So that's what Botswana said to us. And then Botswana also said, it would also be helpful for us as Botswana to periodically be apprised of progress on the vision. So that is really what happened. So at the end of the day, this vision really defines the aspirations of Botswana over the next 20 years. This vision is owned by Botswana, is for Botswana, by Botswana. That is really how we view it. And you know, it is important to try and understand how then we came to the topic achieving prosperity for all. It shall be remembered that in the first vision, it was towards prosperity for all. Right. In other words, Vision 2016 sought to drive Botswana towards prosperity. Vision 2036, the fundamental difference between Vision 2036 is that it talks about achievement. Now, achievement is actually about action. Right. It talks about doing. For a long time, we as Botswana have been talking.
We're very
much
good at
more.
that.
We're very good at talking, but we do very little. So this one prompts us to talk.
To do.
Now, yeah, in fact, to do, yeah, not to talk. Thank you. And what it does, in order to achieve, there must be action. So at the end of the day, we say, we also have tried hard to try and ask Botswana what they understood prosperity to mean. And at the end of the day, once we had taken all views, we felt that prosperity is actually the achievement and fulfillment of goals and aspiration at individual level, at family level, at community level, and even at national level. We also believe that prosperity applies at all levels, whether it's a private sector, NGOs, or any other organization in Botswana. So that is how the vision was developed. And
quite a thorough process, Neo Moroka, that
yes.
was taken, that you went through as the Vision 2036 Council, going across the country to capture the ambitions of every Motswana. Coming up with these 4 pillars, maybe you can just briefly mention those 4 pillars, and also every vision, every ambition or aspiration and endeavor requires a leader and requires strong leadership. Maybe then you can also let us know who the champion of the Vision 2036 is and what exactly their role is in achieving those 4 pillars in an effort to achieve prosperity for all.
Let me start with the first part of the question, which speaks to the development of the pillars. Now, in developing the pillars, first of all, the task team had to recognize that Botswana is not an island. Botswana is part of the global community. So in developing the pillars, we took cognizance of the frameworks that relate to the sustainable development paradigm. The first one is Agenda 2030 on sustainable development, together with its associated sustainable development goals.
Right.
Then we looked at the Paris Agreement on climate change, which was reached in December 2015 or thereabouts. We also looked at the Africa Agenda 2063, which is really about the integrated, developed, prosperous Africa as a continent. We then came to the region, to the SADC region, and we look at they call it the Regional Indicative Strategic Development Plan. That's the SADC plan. And it speaks to regional economic and trade integration, as well as infrastructure development. And it also speaks to cooperation and peace and security, education, etc. So having looked at this, and then of course we looked at our own selves internally in Botswana, and we saw that we had Vision 2016, and we came to the realization that, look, in Botswana, we still have challenges. We have challenges of a monolithic economy, which is largely dependent on minerals, right, particularly diamonds. The economy remains undiversified. The economy is uncompetitive. There are low levels of productivity within Botswana. So then we said to ourselves, then looking at the pillars that we had in 2016, how can we then frame all these? Now let me go back to the Agenda on Sustainable Development. Now, the agenda on sustainable development has 5 transformative shifts, so to speak. The first is leave no one behind, put sustainable development at the core, transform the economy for jobs and inclusive growth. 4, build peace and efficient, effective, and open institutions, as well as 5, partnerships. So those are the transformative shifts that we had to take into account. Then we came to the Sustainable Development Goals themselves. They actually address 5 areas of development. And the first is people, planet, prosperity, peace, and then partnership. So we took these. Now, the Paris Agreement on climate change, we looked at that, and what it really seeks to do is to ensure that, you know, we deal with the issue of climate change. Then we realized that climate change itself, that agreement has the potential to enhance the value of some of our resources, but at the same time, it also has the potential to decrease the value of others. Just to give you an example, for example, sunshine, we can then use solar.
Right.
And when it comes to coal, it sort of contaminates the environment. So much as it's important in the creation of energy, then coal had to, you know, diminish. Yeah. So the value of coal will diminish in the context of the climate change agreement. Africa agenda on integration, prosperity, and peace. That one, I mean, is clear. Yeah, the ambition is clear. Again, when you look at SADC, regional integration is something that we started talking about the time I was a minister, before I was carded as a politician. So we understand that the need for cooperation, especially we in Botswana, who are a small country.
And right in the middle.
And when we're in the middle. But being in the middle, some can take it to be a disadvantage, but it's an advantage. So we had to take all these. Now, having looked at this, we said, look, what are the key areas that we have to deal with in our pillars? How do we develop the pillars? Clearly, if you take the transformative shifts, the Sustainable Development Goals, the Paris Agreement, Africa Agenda 2063, and the Regional Integration Strategic Development Plan of SADC, and our own situation at home, we then said, you know what? The key thing for us as Botswana is to look at the economy. So therefore, we said to ourselves, if we look at the economy, what should be the aspiration? Particularly in the context of the main aspiration that we want Botswana to be a high-income country. So we said, well, Botswana will be by 2036, Botswana will be a high-income country with an export-led economy, which is underpinned by diversified, inclusive, sustainable growth, driven by high levels of productivity. So you can see that that pillar speaks to development, it speaks to sustainability, and it speaks to people, it speaks to growth. Yeah. Then we came to the second pillar, human and social development. Yes. We were mindful of the fact that, you know, human capital is important for the enhancement of competitiveness. It's important for delivery of economic growth. So we felt that, look, and also it's actually important for social cohesion. So we then said to ourselves, well, then the second pillar should be human and social development.
Plus, we can't have sustainable economic development when people are poor.
Precisely.
Exactly.
Precisely. And remember, as I said earlier on, the aspirations of the people at the end of the day was that, hey, we want to be prosperous, and we want to live in the enjoyment of our full potential. So that is what one of the considerations we had. The third was sustainable environment. We were mindful of the fact that, look, clearly there's a lot of harm and damage that's being done to the environment in pursuit of economic growth. And also it's done because of the need to develop. For example, we mine coal, we do all sorts of things. In Botswana, we rear lots of cattle, we overgraze, you know, and all that. There's competition between human and wildlife, you name it, all those issues. So we looked at that and we said, but, you know, if we have to succeed in our vision, as Botswana, what should we then do? As we said, you know what, we should aim for sustainable development. I mean, sustainable environment. That is, environment that will be protected as we move forward. And fourthly, we said, you know what, all these things, if we have to achieve them, there has to be peace, there has to be good governance, and there has to be security. Yes. Now, luckily for us in Botswana, we already have this. So the context was that these must be nurtured, they must be guided jealously, and they must continue. So that is how the pillars developed. And you know, when we developed the vision, as is probably quite evident and clear by now, was that we looked at the sustainable development paradigms at the global level, at the continental level, and at the regional level, as well as at the national level. Right. So what we had to do was to align our national agenda to all these international agendas as well, so that we you know, at the same time, while we pursue our national agenda, we're also contributing and complying with the international or the global sustainable development agenda. So that's what we did. So really, that is the history behind the development of the pillars. Now, coming to who leads this, it is very clear in our vision document that, you know what, and Botswana said that leadership was required, as I said earlier on. And it is very clear that the champion of the vision is the president. And I can say right now that His Excellency, the President, Dr. Mokwezi Eric Gabets Masisi, is actually the champion of the vision. He leads this. As a council, again, which I have the pleasure of chairing, we report to him directly. Of course, protocol demands that we go through the Minister of Presidential Affairs, which we do. But at the end of the day, the president is the champion. What we can also remember, or what should be remembered, is that His Excellency always talk about a knowledge-based economy. That comes straight from Pillar 1 of the vision, sustainable economic development. So that is what he says. And what he has also tried to do is to say, now, in promoting sustainable economic development, what should we do? You will recall that we have a farm in Kgalagadi called Lubu. He has resuscitated the programs there, and the aim of that farm, of those programs on that farm, is to actually promote the breeding of small stock, which does very well in the Kgalagadi area from where I come. And so that's what he's doing. As I speak right now, in championing the vision, he's on a trip to the north. I should have gone with him yesterday, but I requested the CEO of the Vision Secretariat to represent me. Right. So, and one of the items on his agenda is to actually encourage people to develop agriculture. And in this regard, he's donating rams and bucks to the communities so that they can do that with a view to improving the development and growth of agriculture and the quality of production of livestock and agriculture, in this case, small stock. But at the same time, trying to talk about the exploitation of the entire value chain, you know, as opposed to us just growing cattle or livestock, taking them to the abattoir, and the meat is export. Let's add value. That is really what the champion is doing. I'm just giving agriculture as an example, and it's something that, and I think I'm also giving this example because it is one to which many Botswana, if not most Botswana, can
relate to, most
Exactly.
certainly.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of the champion, it's clear to us then that as the president being the champion, he's representing us not only at a national level, but also in a global context,
Yes.
in meeting with all those different agreements that we are party to.
Exactly.
Moroka, one of the main things and the main themes that we hear being spoken about a lot by the champion of the Vision 2036, and that is also required by the vision itself, is transformation.
Yes.
You could maybe briefly touch on what this transformation entails and how it is that we intend on achieving transformation within this country.
Yeah. Let me put it this way. Let me take you back to what I said earlier on agenda on sustainable development. I did indicate that on that agenda, it speaks to leaving no one behind. It speaks to having sustainable development at the core. It speaks to transforming the economy to grow jobs and economic and also provide for economic growth. It speaks for peace, and it speaks for partnership, and it speaks for open and efficient institutions. So therefore, when we really talk about the transformation in the context of the vision, we actually, in simple terms, mean that as Botswana and as a country, we commit ourselves to seeking innovative and breakthrough ways, to come up with what we call game changers.
Right.
These are high impact projects whose impact will be felt right from where they are and have
And
sort of
trickle
many
down.
ripple effects. That's that's the first aspect. The second aspect is that when we talk about transformation, we mean that we have to be bold and make sure that our institutions are geared for transformation and for enabling us to achieve the vision. Therefore, what it means is that we must be bold. If we have to change institutions, we must do so. For example, you have the National Strategy Office. The President has just created the National Strategy Transformation Team. We have the Vision Council. We have the Vision Coordinating Agency, which is our Secretariat. We have all these. Yeah. If I dare say so, we have ministers who are appointed, cabinet ministers, who are appointed from elected members of parliament. Now, as we go forward, is that the right thing? Yeah.
Is it?
Is it the right thing? I don't know. But in case we feel that it's not the right thing, let me give my view here. My view is that there should be the cabinet ministers should be elected from the general public, based on track record and on performance. And the president who appoints them must have the authority and latitude to actually fire the minister without risk of offending the constituents who elected them. See, I'm just giving this as an example. So this is the kind of boldness that we are talking about. That is what transformation is about. Again, if I come to our own economy, we are a monolithic economy. We have been too reliant on minerals. So now, how do we change the economic model that has hitherto served us well? Bearing in mind that we have been stuck at upper middle income level for over 2 decades now. We're at crossroads. So what do we do? So we have to review this model and say, hey, how can we then, what should we do? Shouldn't we now at this stage consider a model that promotes efficiency, productivity, and competitiveness, as opposed to a model that relies on windfalls from the management of our mineral resources and so forth. So this is really what transformation is about. I'm speaking passionately about transformation because I strongly believe that that is what we need. And if you look at that vision document, it says that Vision 2036 is a transformational agenda, you know, which will enable Botswana to reach high income status and bring prosperity. So transformation is at the core.
I guess what you're really saying to us is you're challenging each and every one of us at an individual level, but also organizational level, that whatever needs to happen in order to transform, in order to achieve our goals, then that is what must be done. And Moroka, you mentioned various groupings and various task teams and organizations that are collectively mandated with driving the vision forward and driving transformation forward. But truly, what is the delivery structure of the Vision 2036? Whose responsibility is it to push this vision forward? Is it government? Is it private sector? Is it the Vision Council? Is it this coordinating agency? Is it me as an individual? What's the delivery structure to ensure that the transformation happens and to ensure that the Vision 2036 mandate is actually achieved?
You know, that is a very pertinent question, and one that is somewhat complex to answer. In the vision document, we have proposed the following. One, a national transformation strategy.
Right.
Yes. Now, this strategy will serve as a single reference point for all strategies at sector level, at individual level, and what have you. That is what it is. This transformation strategy will assist us to weigh competing alternatives. It will also assist us to deal with conflicts.
Right.
You know, policy is a very complex thing because there are always contradictions in policy. So the strategy is supposed to enable us to deal with this. Secondly, what I must say here with a bit of tongue in cheek is that, you know, in the corporate world, we say structure follows strategy. So the key thing that has to happen is the national transformation strategy as the first. Now, I'm pleased to say that, as I said earlier on, HE has appointed a national transformation strategy team who are developing the strategy, and hopefully we will be getting on track very soon to have this strategy in place. What we've also proposed in the vision document is to have a delivery system or a delivery unit. What we propose is a vision delivery unit. Now, what the government has done, the government has clearly said, let's first have a council. Because yes, there must be delivery, but the role of the council should be one of making sure that the destination of the vision, you know, is kept in view of stakeholders. That's what we do. Two, this council should promote, if I may call that, all of the nation integrated approach towards the implementation of the vision, but also it should actually, this council should promote vigorous, regular stakeholder engagement. And the council itself must also ensure that the evaluation of progress on implementation of the vision is actually done on a timeless basis. That's what we are. We are not a coordinating agency or so to speak, a delivery agency. But we do have sort of like an input into the delivery. That is the first part. We have the secretariat.
Yes.
If you look at our secretariat, which has two units or departments, if I may call them that, advocacy, communication, advocacy, and change management, we have that. And then we have monitoring and evaluation. We have those two. Our preference is that we should have also a transformation directorate.
Right.
In view of resource constraints and in view of the fact that there is a transformation strategy development task team, government has held that in abeyance. And of course, this doesn't mean what is happening now is cast in stone. So this secretariat clearly has to ensure that there's advocacy and communication of the vision. it has to ensure that there's monitoring and evaluation of all initiatives and programs related to the vision as well as projects, and it's got to regularly report together with other institutions that have responsibility for reporting on achievement of vision. It has to report. But more importantly, this secretariat in a way has oversight for all of government, all government programs. Otherwise, how would they evaluate? How would they monitor? So they have an oversight, and in this particular regard, they make strategic input into various government programs. So when NSO does something, as the National Strategy Office, or even the National Transformation Strategy Team, they come here and they are just about to come and brief us. So this is really what it is. But at the end of the day, to answer your question directly, the driving of the vision, one, requires strong leadership, both in government, private sector, civil society, and even at family level and community level, as I said. That's one. But two, it requires active participation at individual level, at family level, at community level, at local government level, at government level, business, civil society. So it's got to be owned. It's ours. The delivery of the vision is actually a national responsibility. So what I'd like to urge Botswana is that each Motswana, wherever he is or she is, should ask the question of himself or herself the question, what am I doing first in my own life to make sure that I'm the kind of person that is envisaged for 2036. I am a prosperous person in 2036. You know, I exploit the opportunities that are at my disposal, such that by 2036, I live in the full enjoyment of these opportunities that I've had, and in the realization of my potential. That is where it starts. Unfortunately, some people say, oh, no, we just hear about it. I think it's because people don't understand. And this is exactly why I am trying to go into details to try and show what happens. One of the things that I do myself personally is to look at young people, and I've chosen quite a number to mentor in the business side sector and in the agricultural sector. I mentor them, I guide them. I even mentor some of the managing directors because I want them to be successful. That is what I have chosen. That is my contribution towards that. So, and I derive a lot of joy in doing that, because you see, if you have to build prosperity, you've got to look at prosperity in the context of the vision.
Right.
Now, I did say that our definition of prosperity is the achievement and fulfillment of individual goals and aspirations. For example, your aspiration might be to be a top-class radio presenter or something.
Right.
It may be a top-class artist. That aspiration has to be provided with a conducive environment for you to develop those. And that's exactly what Botswana said. The opportunity should be given to all. But the question that I keep on asking Botswana is, do Botswana really take advantage of these positions? Do we as Botswana really apply ourselves? I must say that if there's anything I lament, is looking at the plowing fields that are less open and go fallow. And then the government goes out to support. They plow freely, they give seeds, they give fertilizers, and what happens? We fold our arms and we sit there. And then the weeds come and choke the crops. And at the end of the day, we sit there and we say, we've got nothing. So really, my plea to Botswana is to apply themselves, to look at these opportunities, and really, for each one of us to say, what am I doing? Now, we are very much aware and cognizant of the fact that, this transformation and this change is not going to be easy, because it relates to changing the laws, it relates to changing the institutions, it relates to changing the mindset and the culture and all those. Yes. So really, we all have to work. Business has to work. All the companies have to work in changing the culture. I mean, if I may say so, we when we developed the vision, we recognized that we are living in a very dynamic, rapidly changing environment, and that the circumstances are changing. And this is why in this very pillar 2, sustainable economic development, pillar 1, we also have, there's also a chapter on human capital development. Why? Because we recognize that there's need for change, there's need for developing humans, there's need for change of mindset, and there's need for individual application, there's need for improvement in productivity, there's need for improving our competitiveness as a nation. So that is the point.
I think you've even touched on what I was going to ask you next, Neo Moroka, which is the reality is that some of us won't even be around in 2036.
I'm much more optimistic than that.
Most of us will be around, but some won't. And
yes.
Which means to me and says to me that, when we're celebrating our 70th independence, that's when it'll be 2036. So the younger generations are the ones who really will be that will inherit whatever we're doing right now. The efforts that we're putting into the vision now, they're the ones who will inherit it. You've touched on how you yourself are mentoring young business people and farmers and the like. What else can be done in a individual level, at a community level, a organizational level, and even at a national level to ensure that the environment is prepared for the culture change, for the mindset change, that by the time we get to 70 years of independence, we really have transformed and we really are a prosperous nation?
Well, and again, that is a question, the answer to which should be provided by the National Transformation Strategy.
True.
Right? Yes. Now, what we, I don't want to preempt the strategy, but what we envisage is that the strategy will be very clear on issues of transformation, there's change of mindset, serious and bold review of institutions, serious and bold review of policies, and serious review of programs and initiatives that government gets into. A serious encouragement of the use of technology, serious encouragement and development of the young people to ensure that their qualifications, their competencies and skills are what is required within the economy to take us forward. These are the urgent things that have to be worked on. Look, some of these are not going to be easy. They're going to, obviously, all these things that we are saying are taking us out of our comfort zones. But we have to get out of the comfort zone. Transformation is about getting out of our comfort zone and moving forward. This, if I may put it that way, because I used to be a politician, this is not about political popularity. All popularity helps. This is about reality of what we want. If you aspire to be a high-income nation, there are certain things you have to do.
There are some changes.
There are changes that have to take place. Let me paint a scenario. For example, our per capita income right now is $7,500 US. Now, to be a high-income country, you have to be at around $12,500 US per capita. Right. Now, how do we close that gap? Our GDP, I think annual GDP, is probably around 60 billion or thereabouts. And we probably need to move to 80 or 90 billion. How do we do that? You can't do that with business as usual. You've got to get to business unusual, even at the risk of becoming unpopular. Yes, that's what we have to do. You have to realize the current realities and the realities of the future. Yeah, we have to anticipate the future. Who ever knew that we would be under COVID restrictions today, working with this year? Yes. So really, this vision is about us. It's about asking, what can I do? And it's about encouraging the innovative potential, especially of our young people. It's about giving that support. We've got the Botswana Innovation Hub. It's got the Botswana Innovation Fund. Do we have enough? This speaks to promotion of research and development as an item in the national budget, not research and development just at UB to publish papers to get promotion, or at one publish papers to get one. But we want research whose result will be applied such that that application contributes towards attainment of the vision. So that is really what I would think has to happen. And this is, I must say, what the government should be ready for. This is what the companies have to be ready for, you know. And some of these difficult realities are what we have to gear ourselves to confront directly. Look at this, we've developed offices and what have you. Now we're working from home. What does this mean for the development of infrastructure development? Do we pursue the usual infrastructure development, or do we shift to look at the new normal? So that's what this vision is about. Yes.
And that's what transformation
and that's what transformation is about.
Yeah.
And do we continue to farm in communal areas, farm communally, where there's no control of animal population numbers, where there's no control of the impact on the environment? Yes. Do we continue to say, hey, or do we say, do we strive for quality? Yes. What should we be doing? These are the questions we should be asking ourselves in the agricultural space, in the corporate space. Hitherto we've been producing diamonds and exporting them raw, beef and exporting this beef raw. Isn't it time, in terms of the vision, the transformation now relates to dealing with these livestock, for example, as an example, right from the farm gate to the abattoir, and dealing with the meat from the abattoir? Should we just export it to the EU or whatever, or do we now add value to this, thereby creating jobs?
Right.
Remember the agenda on sustainable development. It says transform the economy for jobs and sustainable growth. So how then do we, what value do we add? Add value, to this meat, right? So that value increases as you go down the value chain. You see, as you go further downstream. So that is what this vision is about, and that is what transformation is about. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be tough.
Certainly not.
Yes.
And in order to move forward, like you're mentioning, and really be future thinking and future
oriented.
Yes. We've also got to look back and say, where did we go wrong in the past? What challenges did we meet in the past, and how did we overcome those challenges?
Yeah.
Let's look at Vision 2015. Many people ask themselves, 2016, I'm sorry. Many people ask themselves, Vision 2016, what were the challenges that you encountered, and how are we making sure now that we don't meet the same challenges in 2036? And how did we overcome those challenges, the key learnings that we got from Vision 2016 that can drive us forward now with this Vision 2036?
Well, the key, let me start with the key learnings. Yeah, I'm not going to talk to the achievements and maybe the challenges or failures of Vision 2016.
Key learnings.
Because to me that's not particularly relevant. That's relevant to the extent that it helped us develop this current vision. Yes, but what the key learnings that came out of all this are the following. First, there is need for strong leadership, for strong and accountable leadership. That is what it is. This is exactly why the state president really is the champion. That's the first thing. The second thing that we learned is that there really is need for monitoring and evaluation. Yes. Because this is how you can then gauge your progress. That is what we have learned. The third is that, without a strategy, a transformation strategy, which is underpinned by a robust execution plan, we can't. For me, these are the key areas of learnings. These are the key learnings that we have found. And therefore, These are the areas to which the vision addresses itself to. And this is exactly why the National Transformation Strategy is key to moving forward. Let me put it this way. All the businesses, all the companies have got strategies. And you know, the purpose of strategies is simply to say, how do I survive as I go forward? That's really what it is. A strategy is simply there, and a strategy is not cast in stone. A strategy is always flexibly developed to accommodate any changes in the environment. So that's what it is. And really, if we don't have a strategy, what is the reference point? How do we measure ourselves? You see? So because the objectives have to be there. The M&E itself, with indicators, has to show us that, no, we're doing well here. We are not doing well here. So for me, those are the key learnings. And really, at the end of the day, at the core of it all, when it comes to us as individuals, and when it comes to government, there really is need for change of mindset. You see? Let me also give you another thing that developed during Vision 2016. You probably have heard of this Botswana Excellence Strategy. Yes. We spoke about Botswana Excellence Strategy, but to be quite candid, as I always am, it was not really a strategy, it was a wish list. You understand?
Yeah.
And this is exactly why it failed. And there was no leadership and accountability for that. Yes. Now, if I may really be bold, in order for this vision to be achieved and this objective to be achieved, we now have to start imposing performance standards. We have to be measured. My performance as Neo Moroka, where I am, yours as Minnie, where you are, has to be evaluated, and you have to be rewarded on the basis of that performance. If I am stuck where I am, compete, yes, and I'm blocking young, brilliant minds, for heaven's sake, let me be shown a red card. I've had my opportunity. That's really what this strategy calls for. It's not easy. And by the way, let me tell you this. As Botswana, we don't like to be unpopular.
No, we don't.
So this one calls for boldness.
You can say this, you're not a politician anymore. So maybe it's, in hindsight, it may have been a little bit more challenging, but currently you've learned a lot more about, hey, listen, it's nice to be liked, but things need to be done and things need to move forward. So you're saying to us now that monitoring and evaluation is critical to moving forward, and it's one of the key learnings from Vision 2016. So Ramoroka, this month, September, is the Vision Commemoration Month. You've mentioned, you've kind of challenged Botswana and Botswana, challenged us as individuals, private sector, government. What would you say right now, although you really covered quite extensively what your thoughts are, in summary then I would say, what are the key things that you want to say to us as individuals, to families, communities, organizations, and even from a national perspective? What is the next move for us as Botswana?
Let me start at the national perspective. At the national perspective, it is actually critical and urgent to actually finalize the national transformation strategy.
Yes.
To provide guidance for us. Right. At the corporate level, at the let me say at the corporate level, let me do the companies first, because that's where I think I have a modicum of knowledge to, and probably can speak with a bit of authority. The companies operating in this country, large and small, medium scale businesses, have to actually look at the vision and say, how do we transform? Some of these things are going to be painful. Some of the changes are going to be painful. Because if we use technology, some people say that people are going to lose jobs. That's not necessarily true. Because when you apply technology appropriately and correctly, there are always ancillary jobs that are created. There are always opportunities there that are created. So now, let us change. It can't be business as usual. That's exactly it. Now, when I come to family level and individual levels, the question that we ask ourselves is, how do I feed my family? Yes. How do I clothe my family? COVID has taught us a lot of lessons.
Right.
Yes. How do I think for myself? Vision 2036 is here to inspire and empower me. What am I good at? Am I good at growing vegetables? Am I good at livestock? And am I good at sewing and making clothing? What am I good at? How do I capitalize on that? that is how we have to start thinking as individuals, you see. Yes. Kana kore Setswana se monate yaanong gantsi ga re ke le seela tlhogo. Setswana sa re mpha ya lapisa motho o kgona ke sa gago. Yaanong re itirela jang re le Batswana? You see, that is really the question that I would like to put. So I am encouraging everybody and every family to really look at it this way. The second question that we have to ask ourselves as at individual and at family levels, even at company level, is, well, if I produce something, how do I add value to it? Can I add value to it? If I'm a cattle producer, what do I have that adds value? Do I have a steakhouse? Do I have a butchery? Do I have a meat processing plant? How do I do this? And then, of course, this then calls for the environment itself, whether it's conducive for me to do this. Yes, and I think this is something that will have to be continually and continuously looked at with the programs reviewed and so forth. It asks for challenges. You see, for example, let's look at banking. Are our banks geared towards assisting at individual level? To what extent are they? Do they have appetite for taking risks at individual level? Yes, you see. So, and not only that, but as the person who needs to be helped, to what extent am I committed? Yes. Surely I wouldn't want government to go and give me plant seeds for me and what have you. Yes.
And then I just do nothing.
Yes, and then let me again just be a bit controversial. Should the government continue with this free plowing, free seeds, free what? Or should the government consider, yeah, you know what, we'll provide you with facilities through CEDA or commercial banks. You cover some of the banks have got these opportunities now, or programs for COVID lendings. Right. Do we continue with that? Or do we say, no, now the model is changing, we are no longer plowing for you, you have access to capital, you get it, and then you produce the crops. And then the price at BAM or wherever will be such that it's motivating for you to that. It'll be rewarding, for your labor. Yeah. So that way, I think it removes this dependency syndrome that we see. So these are some of the things, and these are the messages that I'd really like our people to work on. Not just the individuals, but also to government to say, are the policies that we have, are they relevant? Are they relevant, and do they really, are they appropriate and enabling for us to achieve the objectives of the vision? That is really what we have to do.
Do they speak to the Botswana we want
to be in 2036? You know, do they speak to the country we are trying to build towards 2036? These are the things. They are not easy. They are very challenging, and therefore, what we have to do is to be bold and move with these things. You know, let me give another example. Should we continue with Ipelere? Look, I will say this. If you ask me, I would say scrap Ipelere and modify it. You see, modify it such that it gives responsibility to people, and it enables, it builds capacity, it restores the self-esteem of people. You know, to me, I believe that before the advent of Ipelere, people had self-esteem because people believe from and therefore, in that particular regard, they understood that they had to make an input. They had to, you know what, roll up their sleeves and work. Yes. Now, what we are seeing, unfortunately, which is an unintended consequence, I must say, is that we're seeing able-bodied men sitting there and saying, yes. And what happens if the budget, like COVID has done, it dries up? What happens to those people? How do they then get reorientated to go back and start plowing, to go back and start doing things for themselves, to go back and start selling magwinya, so that they can improve their livelihoods? So these are the challenges that we face, and this is really my view as chairman of this council, and also as a person who developed, who led the team, the able team, competent team, that developed this vision. Yes, and I think it's a practical vision. It's user-friendly, but it's challenging. That one, let me tell you, it's challenging. Yes.
Moroka, you've given us quite a lot to think about, a lot to ponder over, and some of it quite controversial, like you're saying, challenging to each and every one of us, and to really remove ourselves from this comfort zone that we've been living in for so very long. And if we're going to be a high-income economy, if we're going to achieve prosperity for all,
exactly. Yes.
Towards achieving this Vision 2036.
Indeed.
Thank you so much for your time and for unpacking it so deeply and so thoroughly for each of us to understand.
Great pleasure.
These are my friends. That was the chairperson of the Vision 2036 Council, Neo Moroka, who has really challenged us, each and every one of us, at an individual level, at a family level, communities. How are we contributing and aligning ourselves with the Vision 2036, organizations, corporates, government? Vision 2036. Thank you so much for tuning in to Captains of Industry. And we'll see you again the next time.